as like a very like present dad, like with his children. So
something about this season of Sister Wives has struck a nerve with fans, and much of it revolves around the way Maddie seems to be singled out by her own father, Kody Brown. Viewers are noticing a growing pattern where Kody paints Maddie as a troublemaker, a stirrer within the family, when in reality her words and actions reveal a daughter who has finally had enough of being overlooked. As the tension rises, Maddie's voice has become louder and more powerful, leaving many to wonder if she has quietly declared war on her father's image. In recent episodes, fans could feel the shift. Maddie appeared on screen a handful of times during season 19, but every single moment seemed to carry a subtle edge. She never once referred to Kody as dad or father. To longtime viewers, this wasn't just a slip of the tongue, it was a message. It was as if Maddie was sending a signal that she had distanced herself, not only emotionally, but perhaps even physically from him. The absence of that simple word, dad, echoed, louder than any monologue could. The wounds go deeper than what we see on TV. After the heartbreaking loss of Garrison, fans speculated that Kody's bond with his children had grown even weaker. Instead of drawing his family closer during tragedy, he appeared to retreat further, into the comfort of Robyn and her children, leaving the rest behind. Now, it seems Maddie has drawn her own line in the sand. Some fans believe she's intentionally keeping her children away from him, a painful but clear response to years of neglect. The breaking point came in the form of an Instagram story that quickly ignited discussion across fan pages. Maddie posted a heartfelt but cutting message about distancing herself from someone in her life. Though she never mentioned a name, the timing and the tone made it obvious who she meant: Kody. Her words carried weight. If someone cannot respect her, they have no access to her or to her children. She wrote, "You don't get to play family when it's convenient." That one sentence alone shattered the illusion Kody tries to maintain on camera. Even more piercing was her refusal to let her children confuse abuse with love. "I won't let my kids witness abuse and mistake it for love," she wrote, in what many interpreted as her most direct strike against Kody yet. Fans rallied behind her message, calling it brave and long overdue. They praised Maddie for protecting her kids from the same confusing dynamics she had endured growing up. Maddie emphasized that peace inside her home mattered more than keeping appearances, a philosophy that stands in direct opposition to her father's obsession with image. "Our time is valuable," she wrote, adding that her role as a mother is to guard her children against harm, even if that harm comes from their grandfather. And yet, away from the cameras and the chaos, Maddie's life tells a very different story. While her father clings to fractured relationships, Maddie is thriving in North Carolina with her husband Caleb and their children. She lives close to her mother, Janelle, who herself is embracing a new chapter by building her dream home nearby. Maddie pours her energy into motherhood, finding joy in milestones like her daughter Evie's recent dance recital. She spoke with pride about how Evie's limb difference has never held her back, but instead has become a source of strength and inspiration for their entire family. Maddie's words about her daughter glowed with love. "She's sharper than attack. Each time I see her venture into the world, I'm reminded how lucky we are to have her extra spark in our lives." Meanwhile, the Sister Wives world behind Maddie remains as volatile as ever. The season 19 tell-all special peeled back layers of tension, bitterness, and blame. Kody sat on stage deflecting responsibility, insisting that his ex-wives were at fault for the collapse of the family, while host Sukanya Krishnan pushed him to finally admit his part. But the most explosive moments didn't come from Kody. They came from the women who once stood by his side. Janelle's words were particularly scathing. She described her marriage to Kody as a toxic cycle, where moments of affection came only after hurt, a manipulative rhythm known as love bombing. She suggested that his behavior mirrored that of a narcissist, though she stopped short of using the label outright. "I'm not a psychologist," she said carefully, "but I've seen the red flags." Her hesitation didn't soften the blow. Viewers knew exactly what she meant. And then there was Mary. In the third installment of The Tell-All, she recalled a disturbing moment involving Coyote Pass, the very property that has torn the Browns apart for years. Back when they lived in Las Vegas, Mary once asked Kody an innocent question about how the land would be divided. Instead of clarity, she was met with hostility. He lashed out, becoming evasive, as though her simple curiosity was an act of betrayal. Janelle later confirmed that she too had asked similar questions, and each time Kody's response was defensive and cold. For the wives, these interactions became warning signs, proof that something was deeply wrong in the way Kody handled both money and trust. Janelle went on to reveal how deeply damaging his behavior had been. She confessed that at times she felt manipulated into doubting herself, pulled back in with sudden affection only after conflict, a cycle that wore her down emotionally. When Suki asked her directly if she believed Kody was a narcissist, Janelle took a pause, then left the answer hanging for viewers to decide. Her silence said more than words could. As the tell-all barrels toward its conclusion, TLC teased Part 4 with even more explosive revelations. Christine's observation that Kody cares more about appearances than reality struck a nerve with Janelle, who immediately agreed. "Kody prefers people to look polished and put together," she said. "It's almost like maintaining the image matters more to him than what's really happening underneath." In the preview, viewers catch a glimpse of Kody, visibly frustrated, questioning why his ex-wives continue to speak about him. The answer, of course, is painfully obvious. The wounds he left are still open, and his former family refuses to let him rewrite the narrative.
Conversation, because I don't know what church she's referring to, and if she has something specific in mind.
You could almost feel the irritation radiating off Kody whenever the topic shifted toward Maddie. His body language stiffened, his tone sharpened, and the frustration was undeniable. Robin, never one to remain quiet for long, chimed in as well, admitting she felt annoyed and even confused about why her name was constantly dragged into these conversations. But Mary, with her calm yet piercing clarity, quickly shut down one of the most enduring myths, that she was the one who brought Robin into the family in the first place. Mary's quiet words exposed a contradiction that has never sat well with viewers. And then, almost like adding fuel to a fire already burning, Kody confessed he never felt a true spark with any of his wives except Robin. That one statement alone sent shockwaves across the fan base, rewriting decades of history in a single breath. Whether it was his honest truth or just a revisionist excuse, the damage was immediate and unavoidable. Those words were bound to stir resentment, and Maddie, though not sitting in that studio, became an unspoken target of his commentary once again. It felt unjust, almost cruel, that Kody could so freely badmouth his daughter without her being present to defend herself. Yet Maddie has found her own way to respond, not in the chaos of television, but through her own voice. She's recently launched a podcast, not one that fixates on sister wives, but rather one where she can shape her own narrative. Through her platform, her independence is crystal clear. The Maddie we see today isn't just reacting to her father's words, she's carving out her own life, her own mission, and her own truth. What once looked like a unified clan bound by faith and shared sacrifice has piece by piece dissolved into fragments. Loss, betrayal, and long overdue realizations have splintered the illusion of oneness, and at the heart of this quiet dismantling stands Maddie, the daughter who learned to find strength not through shouting, but by living differently. She was never the loudest voice in the room, never the one to seek attention, yet she has become a compass for others. By moving far away from the constant storm of Flagstaff, Maddie found not just peace, but power. Her days are spent raising her children, nurturing her marriage, and building a home defined by calm rather than chaos. She has no interest in clinging to an outdated dream of unity that no longer serves her. Her decision wasn't born of anger or vengeance, but of conviction. Distance has become her armor, her way of drawing boundaries without resorting to battles. But make no mistake, distance does not equal indifference. Her recent words show just how deeply she has been shaped by her father's absence, not only in body, but in spirit. This fracture wasn't sudden. It was the slow unraveling of years spent watching from the sidelines while others were favored. Kody once imagined himself as a spiritual leader, a patriarch destined for a higher calling. But time proved him human. Too human. Managing multiple marriages strained him, and instead of rising to the challenge, he leaned into favoritism until the very foundation of his family cracked. Wife by wife, relationship by relationship, the bonds fell apart. And as the wives drifted away, so too did many of the children who had once quietly endured. Maddie, once a little girl who looked up to her father, slowly began to see the cracks in the man behind the grand speeches. She saw the mother she adored, Janelle, grow weary, her patience worn thin by years of neglect. She saw her father's world shrink down until only Robin and her children mattered. What was once called unconditional love began to look like love, with strings attached. The family no longer vacationed together, no longer celebrated milestones as one. Maddie stayed patient for as long as she could, playing the respectful daughter, practicing diplomacy where possible. But time has a way of revealing the truth. Even the quietest child eventually realizes when a parent is missing, not just from birthdays or graduations, but from the emotional moments where presence matters most. When Maddie finally spoke out, she did not unleash her frustrations in tabloids or on talk shows. Instead, she chose the intimacy of her private social media. Her words were calm but sharp, wrapped in grace yet unflinching. She wrote about boundaries, about protecting her peace, and about refusing to confuse control with love. Her post spoke of her sacred role as a mother, the responsibility to guard her children from harm, not just physical harm, but emotional. Manipulation from those who drift in and out of their lives only when it suits them. To many fans, it felt universal. This wasn't just the story of a reality star's daughter. It was a voice for countless adult children who have endured similar pain. Maddie made it clear, respect is non-negotiable, and access to her children is not a privilege to be handed out to someone unwilling to offer the same respect in return. Though brief, her words rippled outward, reaching siblings, fans, and even, perhaps some members of her own family who nodded quietly in understanding. This was not a tantrum, it was a line in the sand. One subtle yet powerful detail drove the point home. On the show, Maddie never called Kody Dad. She called him by his first name. To casual viewers, it might have seemed insignificant, but to those paying attention, it felt deliberate. It was a reclamation of space, a refusal to hand over a title that she no longer believed was earned. This wasn't revenge, it was truth. The tipping point had arrived. Maddie was no longer waiting for her father's validation. She was no longer bending herself to fit his narrative. She was creating a life defined by her own values, her own version of family, and in that definition, there was no room for those who failed to make her feel seen. Her quiet rebellion has carried more weight than loud confrontations ever could. Growing up in a plural household brought moments of comfort, but also chaos. She had witnessed the strength of her mothers supporting one another, but also the heartbreak of favoritism and the silence of being ignored. As a child, she trusted the ideals her parents preached, but adulthood brought clarity, and with it, the painful truth. Maddie chose to step away not with fireworks, but with deliberate actions. She picked a partner who offered stability instead of drama, a home built on love instead of duty. And she made a quiet vow to her children. They would never feel the hollow absence she once felt. Now Maddie shows up for her children every single day. Every bedtime story, every school play, every scraped knee. Her presence is consistent, intentional, and unwavering. In doing so, she is rewriting what parenthood means. Her version of motherhood is not just about keeping her children alive, it is about filling their world with love, stability, and protection. She has openly said she refuses to let hatred disguised as family through her door. She will never teach her children that cruelty is love, or that neglect is acceptable. Her words have echoed with daughters and sons who have also endured distant, absent fathers. Maddie is not just a mother now. She is a healer. She is a voice for those who never had one. Her strength comes not only from what she has endured, but from how she has chosen to rise above it. And perhaps the saddest detail of all is the simplest one: Kody's distance from his grandchildren. The absence speaks louder than any denial he could ever offer, and it is a silence that cuts through the heart of the family. You can almost feel the frustration radiating from Kody. Robin also chimed in, admitting she's exhausted and confused about why her name keeps getting dragged into every discussion. But Mary, calm as ever, set the record straight. She never introduced Robin to Kody in the first place. That's a misconception she wanted to end right there. And then came Kody's own revelation, claiming he never truly felt that first spark with any of his wives except Robin. Whether that's his truth or just a revisionist memory, one thing is clear. Those words won't sit well with the rest of the family. For Maddie, it feels especially unfair. Kody criticizes her openly, yet she isn't there to respond. But Maddie has her own platform now through her podcast. While it's not centered on sister wives, it gives her an outlet. And it's obvious that beneath the surface, she's navigating the aftermath of a family unraveling. Once celebrated as a united, faith-driven household, the Browns are now slowly breaking apart, weighed down by loss, resentment, and long overdue truths. And at the heart of this shift is Maddie. Once quiet, she's become something of a compass, not through loud confrontations, but through steady conviction. Having built a life away from Flagstaff, she's found peace in raising her children and protecting them from the chaos she grew up in. Her way of drawing boundaries hasn't been dramatic. It's been deliberate. She refuses to confuse love with control or family with conditional loyalty. Her message struck a chord far beyond her own story. For many, it was a reminder that respect and presence in family life aren't optional. They're earned. When Maddie stopped calling her father Dad and simply used his name, fans picked up on the weight of that choice. To some, it was subtle. To others, it was monumental. A daughter reclaiming her space and stripping away a title that no longer felt true. Meanwhile, the tell-all revealed even deeper cracks. Janelle opened up with raw honesty, describing a toxic cycle of blame, love bombing, and manipulation. While she carefully avoided labeling Kody, she admitted reading about narcissism felt eerily familiar. Mary added her own truths, recalling how even asking basic questions about Coyote Pass was met with hostility. And when Christine's perspective was brought up, that Kody cared more about appearances than authenticity, Janelle didn't hesitate to agree. Robin, visibly upset, wondered aloud why she's still being blamed. But Mary calmly reminded her, history is history, and no one else engineered her relationship with Kody. In the end, all these revelations pointed to one undeniable reality. The family's image of unity has long since collapsed. And then came Kody's own breaking point. On camera, he lashed out, angry that his ex-wives continued to talk about him. He accused them of mocking him, turning him into a punchline. But his outburst only highlighted what fans already sensed, a massive disconnect between how he views himself and how his family actually experienced him. For Janelle, though, this was more than just another dramatic episode. It was liberation. By speaking her truth, clear, painful, and unfiltered, she broke years of silence. Her words weren't about revenge or shaming. They were about reclaiming her reality, acknowledging the deep cost of emotional neglect, and finally stepping into clarity. And that's the real power of this tell-all. It wasn't polished, it wasn't comfortable, but it was honest. And sometimes, healing begins not with forgiveness, but with the courage to name the truth out loud. Thank you for watching. If this episode resonated with you, don't forget to subscribe and give it a thumbs up. We'll be back soon with more updates on the Brown family saga. Until then, take care and see you next time.